Bela Tarr's 1994 film Sátántangó is one that I've been thinking about for a while. I watched it for the first time around a month ago, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since. I decided that there was nothing better to start my video essay career with than this, so here are my thoughts on Sátántangó. Since I watched it about a month ago, I've edited the film down to just over 4 hours, a video you may have seen on my channel a few days ago. I've ordered, received, and started to read Sátántangó, the book by the same name that it was based on, and I've watched the full 7.5-hour film twice, not including my edited down version, which I'll put in the description. I looked at the film a lot online, and from what I've read, most people either completely hate or absolutely love Sátántangó. I've pretty much only seen people say that it's a 6 out of 5, 11 out of 10 masterpiece, or a totally and completely boring waste of time. I, for one, lie kind of in the middle of this debate. If you couldn't already tell, I'm a pretty big fan of this film. In fact, I'd consider it among my top 10 favorites. So I'm going to try and ignore personal resonance when discussing the film in a mostly objective context, which is what this video is an attempt at doing. So first, the good. The cinematography, performances, score, characters, and atmosphere, to an extent, are all some of the best I've ever seen on screen in my entire history of watching films. Even though it's 7.5 hours long, I wasn't bored for a second. The film is very thought-provoking. At some point in the future, I may make a video talking about some of the theories relating to the film's themes, characters, and events. Iramus alone could easily provide enough material for his own video. I absolutely love films like this that allow you to interpret the meaning behind certain scenes, what's going on in a character's head, and sometimes just what's going on to begin with. It's not to say it's confusing, just that Iramus specifically has some very strange and subtextual scenes, like when he drops to his knees at the ruins where a stick died, or when he freaks out about an irrelevant sound on the bar, makes everyone freeze in their tracks, and then announces that he'll blow everyone up. Super cool movie per my interest, and that's one of the reasons why it resonated with me so much. I don't speak fluent Hungarian, so I can't speak completely to the performances, but from an American-speaking perspective, every character has a great performance. Iramus, Futaki, and the Doctor especially had me completely engrossed in the film every time they were on screen, and it was so rewarding to see the Doctor at the very end after he almost dies at the 2-hour mark. I think that Peter Burling might be one of the greatest actors of all time. The score is amazing. I've actually listened to some of Mihai Vig's songs on Spotify that he composed for Sátántangó and a few of the other films he's made music for. He's a really talented composer as well as actor. Cinematography is some of the best you'll ever see, and Cinematography is some of the best you'll ever see, and every frame really does look like a painting. Seriously, some shots rival Stanley Kubrick. There isn't a single bad shot in the entire film. It's very clear the whole crew put in a lot of care and effort into each and every shot. In addition to this, one of the film's greatest strengths is that it has very few shots considering its runtime. I don't have the energy or patience to count, but I've heard everywhere from 172 to 150 shots in the entire film. Either way, this is incredibly impressive considering the state of things now in modern movies, even by a 2-hour film standard. But this one is 7.5 hours long, making it infinitely more impressive. This really highlights the importance of cuts and long takes in films. When you hold out a shot for a really long time, the eventual cut becomes even more powerful. Every scene in the film is really well done. Some of my favorites are Iramus' speech, the 13-minute one take of Mihai Vig walking around the room and talking, as I mentioned before, the entire Doctor sequence, Iramus and Petrina making the report and speaking to the dynamite supplier while eating soup in the restaurant, and the entire last chapter. Now, the things I dislike. It's 7.5 hours long. I said that I wasn't bored for a second, and apart from this 9-hour dance scene, that was true, but there are a few scenes where it goes a little bit overboard. I'm not talking about slow pacing or pregnant pauses, because the film certainly has its fair share of both things, and both things done right. There are some points when it becomes too much. What I'm talking about here is not a personal problem with someone watching it who is impatient. It's a problem with the pacing during the editing. The scene being slow-paced is different than showing us a stick walking with the dead cat for 152 seconds, or constantly lingering on scenes after all action has ended, often after characters have long left the scene. I'll put one on screen for you now to show you what I'm talking about. Keep in mind, this is one example of many that I could have picked. Did we really need to see the frame of the closed door for 13 seconds before cutting to the next scene, and then wait even longer before Futaki and Schmidt walk into frame? The film constantly does this, and I can't see a reason why, other than to artificially inflate the runtime and make it 7 hours. The book is only 289 pages, and the story could easily fit into a 3-hour film. Now this is different from slow pacing and pregnant pauses, as I said earlier. Even shots like where the camera stays still on the bar for an unusual amount of time are fine. At least this, while boring to some, is a conscious directorial choice to build tension and atmosphere. There we are again. Atmosphere. There's an argument to be made that this is done to build atmosphere. The town itself is a character, and whatnot. I actually agree with this, and for around the first 2 hours, I was on my high horse agreeing with the praise, and then I realized that we're talking about two things here: slow pacing and lingering. I hope by now that you understand what I'm talking about. There's some shots that some people would consider to be unnecessarily long that I think are perfectly fine, like the slow zoom on the doctor where all he does is pour a drink and smoke a cigarette. This is slow pacing, and it is immersive. It has action, and it works. The rest of it honestly feels like the work print version of a film that hasn't been edited yet. It reminded me of when I watched the Apocalypse Now work print, except this time it's longer. Slow pacing is great sometimes, and I think it was definitely the correct choice for Sátántangó, but the lingering is unjustifiable. It is not immersive. In fact, after 4 or 5 empty lingering shots, it gets old and makes it less immersive. Personally, I don't have a problem with it, but I'm not the only one who will watch this film. The real tragedy of all this is that Bellatar has alienated a large group of his audience. The group that no matter the praise, no matter the interest, no matter the love for his previous work, would never watch a 7-hour movie. Unlike some other reviewers, I can't help but agree with them. I have a lot of time on my hands and I'm somehow able to empty my schedule and sit down for 7 hours and watch this film in one sitting. But if I wasn't, I'd probably never get to it. That's really a shame, because like I said at the beginning, it's one of my favorite films of all time. Think of all the people who would love this film that will instead never see it. My final thoughts are mixed. Sátántangó is one of the most interesting cases that I've ever seen. It's crazy that a film could get so much right and then make a terrible decision like this. I certainly spent a lot of time with this film, and it makes me a little sad when I think about its potential. If not for the pacing issues, you could use this film to teach, but because Bella wasn't willing to cut down his creation, Sátántangó will never be seen by a large portion of the population and his fans. Even so, even with my complaints, it's still an incredibly good movie. And I'd be lying if I didn't say it was a 9 out of 10 film. He's so close, yet so far. It really could have been one of the greatest films of all time.